Okay, salam sejahtera and good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for joining us in this World Water Day 2022 webinar on the title, Will Penang Have Enough Water for the Future? So this is a very interesting topic, and just to let you know why are we organizing this webinar. Every year, as you are aware, if you are a Penangite, you will know that Water Watch Penang will organize the World Water Day face-to-face, but because of COVID-19, we have not been doing so for the past few years. So this year also is not ready yet to organize a face-to-face World Water Day celebration. So we are organizing this webinar to keep all Penangites abreast with what is going on. As you know, in the past few weeks, PBA has been releasing a lot of press releases on water issues across very diverse topics, including protection of catchment, including desalination, and whether Penang would have enough water or not, and so on and so forth. And I'm sure all the Penangites have a lot of questions to ask. And here today, we are very lucky. We have a very distinguished field of panelists, including Yang Berbahagia Dato' Jasni Maidinsa, who is the CEO of PBA, Perbadanan Bekalan Air Pulau Pinang. He holds a Bachelor of Science Honours from Civil Engineering from Glasgow in 1984, a Diploma of Management from Malaysian Institute of Management, and also a Master's in Business Administration from USM. University Science Malaysia in 2001. He is a registered professional engineer with the Board of Engineers Malaysia, member of Malaysian Water Association. Welcome, Dato'.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just move on to the other panelists. We have here with us today Dr. David Lacy, who is the president of the Free Industrial Zone Penang, or Free Penka. Dr. David here is very prolific writer, and he has written a lot of very interesting stuff, including his latest book, As Empires Fell, The Life and Times of H.S. Lee, the first Finance Minister of Malaya. And I think today he will be speaking, maybe giving us views on what will happen to the industrial sector in terms of water. Let's move on to Mr. Tan Hang Beng, who is the chairman of Real Estate and Housing Developers Association, or REDA. Mr. Tan, as I know, was an ex-PUB man. PUB, of course, is the famous water service provider in Singapore. So we are very lucky to get your views on the water issues, because I think you are the man who has got good experience. We move on to our next panelist, Dr. Ooi Kee Beng, who is Executive Director of Penang Institute. Welcome, Doctor. Dato' is also member of various Penang government bodies, giving his time and his expertise, such as a Penang 2030 Advisory Committee. He's also visiting Senior Fellow of ISEAS, Yusof Ishak Institute in Singapore, I presume, yeah? Where he was the Deputy Director from 2011 to 2017, Senior Fellow of Jeffrey Chia Institute of Southeast Asia, and many other things in other universities, giving his expertise and also contributing to society and so on. He is the co-founder of Penang Monthly, and he has written a lot for The Age Malaysia, and also a long-time editor of Trends in Southeast Asia. Welcome, Dato'. And Mr. Mohideen Abdul Qadir, another panelist of CAP, may join us a little bit later on. I think he has some problem logging in. So anyway, we have enough panelists to start. So, okay, let's get back to the real thing now on this webinar. Why do we need to organize this webinar Of course, everybody knows the importance of water. Without water, you cannot survive. We cannot live. But Penang is one of the biggest, oldest port in the country. Penang has the free trade zone, Bayan Lepas free trade zone, together with the Pride industrial estate. It is the third largest industrial estate, industrial zone in the whole country. So it's very important, that this survives. And all this needs water. Penang has the highest gross domestic product per capita among all Malaysian states. It has the nation's third highest human development index. Penang is also an educational hub, medical hub, and also FDI is very important. I think in the year 2020, we captured the biggest amount of FDI in the whole country. So the importance of Penang to the country, not just to Penangite, is very, very important. And all this will vanish without water. That's why we are very concerned when the issue of water being raised, whether we will have enough water in the future. Without water, all this will vanish, totally disappear. Why do we need to focus and talk about water for Penang's future? Please, Dato', you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Chan. So, as you know, there has been a lot of news in the media this year and last year, and also because of the climate change impact. But here, PBAPP has always planned ahead. We actually have planned since 2009 to make sure we have enough water until 2050. Okay? So, therefore, we are also aware of the major risks. The number one risk that Penang faces is because of a good business environment, the future water demand will for sure increase tremendously. So we had planned ahead. The second risk is we have limited in-state water resources. And the third risk, which is a very major one, is because Sungai Muda supplies more than 80% of our water. There is a triple threat because of the statements made by the MB of Kedah. Number one is Kedah wants to reopen to logging again from 2020. Number two, they are looking at rare earth mining. And number three, they are pushing for the development of the Kulim Airport next to the Sungai Muda River. So this is a serious threat to our existing water source. The fourth risk is climate change. And we have seen this in 2020 when rain did not fall at Telok Bahang Dam catchment. It dropped to 16%, and we had to get the state government to conduct cloud seeding to save the day. And this year, we saw the rain was not falling at Aitam Dam when it fell to 38.5%. And we have just recently pursued this matter. And again, we wanted the state government to do cloud seeding. And lastly, is these delays of the Sungai Perak Raw Water Transfer Scheme. As you know, we have planned for it since 2009. And it was supposed to start, the phase one supposed to start in 2013, but it did not take off. And until now, recently, the MB of Perak says they don't have enough water. So with this, we introduced our PWSI, or Penang Water Supply Initiative 2050 plan, because we know that if Sungai Perak is further delayed, we have another contingency plan. Basically, we have the raw water contingency plan to take care of water until 2030, and beyond 2030, if Sungai Perak still do not take off, then we have to go for desalination. Prof?
Okay, thank you very much, Dato, for the elaborate comments and explanation. I would like to give the panelists the opportunity to give their comments, if any, or you can ask Dato questions also pertaining to this particular topic. Anybody would like to take the floor? Just comment or any questions?
I think Dr. Uy wanted to say something.
Yes, please, Dato Uy.
Well, I just want to say that water security, of course, is key to Penang's future. And we have always been very happy that the PBA is one of the agencies in Penang and maybe in the whole of Malaysia that is very efficient, plans ahead very well, as all of you have seen. But of course, the risk still remains that we'll run into water security problems within 10 years. So it's good that we have this discussion because it must go beyond discussion sooner or later. That these are serious issues. So yeah, I'm just glad I'm invited to this panel today.
If I could just, I think to date PBA has done a fantastic job to support the growth of Penang. Talking to 3 PENCA members, there's no negative feedback. The feedback is positive. The quality of supply, the adequacy of supply has met the needs of industry. But looking ahead, we see a period of massive growth around North Malaysia. So with global geopolitical tensions, you see a move away from globalization towards regionalization. And many companies from around the world are looking at Malaysia as a place to set up their businesses. It may be manufacturing, it might be R&D businesses alike, but it's a fantastic opportunity for Malaysia, but it's also a challenge for the reasons which you mentioned earlier. So I think all the land in Batu Kawan is already sold or allocated. And the state is urgently finding additional land for industrial use. So industrial growth in the next 5+ years is going to be very significant, and I understand that will create a further challenge for supply.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Lacy, for the comment.
I would like to say something. I do see that the statistic that Dato has already shown. In fact, Penang has a very good and remarkable water supply. However, the crisis, or rather the critical part, is that the 2 other states, the neighboring states, if they are to actually delay on their plan of the supply, as well as the further development of the logging industry in the Kedah, I think this will cause a very serious water stress in the state. I would say that these critical issues has to be well published to all the people in Penang, so that people in Penang will be fully aware that at the moment they are enjoying, but at the same time have to think about the rainy days to come, and to make sure that water conservation is always in their mind, and don't waste water. I think this is very, very important that all of us will have to be aware of. Yeah.
Nice message. Thank you very much. Okay, Dato.
Okay.
With all these things you are warning us, that there's all these threats to the Penang water. So what is PBA doing about this? What are your plans for the future to avoid this crisis? Please.
Okay, so as I mentioned, with all these threats, that's how we came up with the Raw Water Contingency Plan 2030. In fact, we have identified 5 projects, and in fact, the first project, which is upgrading of sedimentation tanks, is already ongoing. Okay, and glad to report that until today, we have achieved 78% completion, and we will complete it by this year. The next project is the package 12A. This is also already in the works. It's running now to to meet the completion date in 2023. And the third project is a new treatment plant next to Mengkuang Dam, and we have, started the process, and is supposed to be completed in 2025. And the fourth project is another treatment plant along Sungai Muda, and is in the pipe works, and it should be completed in 2028. And lastly, to utilize Sungai Prai, which is the largest river in Penang, for water supply. And again, this is planned to be completed in 2028. So you can see we have a concrete plan to meet the risk until 2030, and these projects are already running, and we will ensure they are completed on time. Yeah. Okay. The second part of our contingency plan is to look at Sungai Perak. Yeah. As I mentioned just now, we also have a contingency plan. If Sungai Perak is delayed, we might have a hybrid of desalination and conventional treatments. But even if Sungai Perak is totally not on, we also have a contingency plan where we plan beyond 2030 to go into desalination. Okay, so PBAPP already have concrete plans on how to solve this water demand in the future. And the other one, to make sure the existing Sungai Muda water is taken care of, we have been pushing together with the Penang State the setting up of the Ulu Muda Basin Authority. In fact, the Chief Minister have written to the Prime Minister, and I have written to the Director General of JPS about this setting up of this authority. This Basin Authority is derived from the one in Australia, the Murray-Darling Basin Authority, which have the same problems. And basically, if you can have this set up, you will be able to protect and conserve the Ulu Muda water catchment, primarily for water supply, irrigation, and environmental protection. Okay? You have to still take care of Sungai Muda, because that is where more than 80% of our water supply is coming from. Yeah? And it is future additional demand that must be met by Sungai Perak. Okay? So we have been on our toes in monitoring what happens in Kedah and in Sungai Muda. Yeah? And we have been emphasizing to the federal government, especially the Northern Corridor people. Yeah? Tan Sri Jebasingham just retired. Yeah? I have briefed him before, yeah, that Northern Corridor is attracting billions of investments, and billions of investment needs billions liters of water. Yeah, so it is imperative that the NCIA takes care of the northern water catchments, because if not, what is the point of attracting investments but you cannot guarantee water supply? So it is in the interest of the federal government to take care of the northern water catchments.
Thank you, Dato'.
Thank you.
I would like to ask Dato' Jassini about the desalination idea starting in 1930. By starting in 2030, do you mean the plants kick in then, or they start producing water then, 2030, or the project starts?
So that's why we said that PBA always plan ahead 10 years, yeah. So when we say that, when you talk about commissioning, normally this type of projects might take about 7 years. From the 6th business plan, that's when desalination must start, the planning, yeah? Because then if Sungai Perak still do not kick off, then desalination will kick in, will be commissioned in 2033. Okay? This is the transition period. So, Prof. Chan, you see, PBA is always working ahead, yeah? We don't wait for things to happen. We always have parallel plans, yeah?
Okay, Dato', you just mentioned that the Perak state and also the federal government was continue to dragging their feet. So is there any way that it can actually go into and look at the legal aspect of it? Maybe litigation will be the way to actually compel them to actually fulfill what they have already inked in the agreement. That will actually help to
really, Tan, I don't believe litigation is the answer. Yeah, in water supply, it is better to get the stakeholders to push the federal government. Here, what we mean by stakeholders, the major stakeholders are the industrial players, the housing and real estate players, because these are the drivers of development in the country. Yeah? As Prof. Chan mentioned, yeah? Penang is the highest number 1 in attracting investment in Malaysia for electrical manufacturing and all that. Yeah. So that's why I keep mentioning NCER must play a bigger role. Yeah. I have attended one of their briefings. They mentioned so many things about, attracting industries. Then I asked, where is water supply? To me, without water, you cannot attract any investment. You can ask David Lacy, yeah? Why Penang attracts so many multinationals and we became the Silicon Valley.
Okay, thank you, Dato'. Since Dato' has already asked a question to Dr. David, you would like to make some comments on this? David?
Yeah, I agree that the industry requires water. No doubt industry is getting more efficient in its use of water as time goes by. But as I mentioned, big expansion means that there's more requirement for supply. As a foreigner, when I look at this discussion between states, I think there seems to be some confusion about what the challenge to prosperity in Malaysia really is. It's not state-to-state competition. It's Vietnam and Indonesia are the challenges Malaysia. And so the idea of working together to solve this problem, I would hope that people will focus on the bigger picture.
Yeah, I agree with David. That's what I was stressing on stakeholders, Tan, not litigation. I think if the captains of industries were to sit down with NCER and the relevant ministers and remind them, hello, we are satu Malaysia lah. Why are we talking, like Lacy said, whether we are Vietnam or Indonesia? Yeah, we should be talking about common goals, regional goals. And that's the best way to convince the federal government. Because the key here is the federal government.
The best way to convince them is the figures, the demand figures.
And also to remind them that the northern states, our GDP is over 100 billion. Okay, you are looking at more than 100 billion.
Okay, thank you, Dato'. Thank you, Mr. Tan. I think we get the picture.